Good morning, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Is it okay if I take this off?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What an honor and privilege it is to have with us today Chaplain Clementina Chéry, who joins us during the special Martin Luther King Jr. Shabbat morning service to share her reflections on how her work is connected to Dr. King's legacy, to call attention to the importance of healing in our work for peace and justice, and to encourage each of us to think about how we are called to do our work in the world and to make that thinking a reality. Chaplain Chéry and her family founded the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute in 1994 to honor the life and legacy of her son, Louis Brown, who was committed to confronting the ongoing violence he and his peers were experiencing in their neighborhood. Tragically, Louis was shot and killed in 1993 at the age of 15 while he was walking to attend a Teens Against Gang Violence meeting. In 1996, Tina established the annual Mother's Day Walk for Peace as a way of supporting the work of the Peace Institute and to provide support and love for those whose lives have been impacted by murder and embrace our shared responsibility of peacemaking. This Mother's Day will be the 27th annual Walk for Peace. Its theme this year is Cultivating Cycles of Peace. CDT has participated in this annual event for many years and is grateful for the opportunity to walk alongside and support families and communities impacted by murder, trauma, grief, and loss. Welcome, Chaplain Chéry.
May I? Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Many thanks, Rabbi, and to the congregation for your warm hospitality. Your invitation to speak at this special Shabbat service is truly an honor, and it feels like I'm coming back home. 2014 seems like just yesterday. For today's celebration, I really want to begin by focusing on Dr. King's family, who became themselves survivors of homicide victims. So here's the invitation. Pull down your mental screen. Try to get in focus. However, if it's a bit blurry, that's okay. Now, take my hand, hear my voice, feel my heart, and just walk with me for these few minutes. As a mother of a murdered child, I imagine what Martin's mother, Alberta, went through when one of her beloved children was killed. Alberta taught her children the history of slavery and oppression. She raised them to believe that they was as good as anyone, despite the segregation and discrimination that they experienced. She raised her son like I raised mine, to be proud of who he was, to have a dream. She knew Martin like no one else in the world, the way I knew my son. He was her baby boy, the manifestation of all of his mother's hopes and fears. Tragically, Alberta herself was murdered 6 years after Martin, while she was worshiping in her church, leaving behind children and grandchildren to grieve the woman who held their family together. Christine King Farris later described the Sunday her mother was shot. Without question, the worst day of my life. Christine's brother Martin has been assassinated in Memphis 6 years earlier. Her brother Alfred drowned a year after that. I thought I had made it through the worst days of my life. I was wrong, she said. I think of the impact of Dr. King's murder on his siblings, Christine and Alfred. I have 2 living children who still mourn the murder of their oldest brother in their own ways. Alfred was a gifted preacher active in the civil rights movement, and never found healing after Martin's murder. A year and a half later, he was found dead in the pool at his house. His family believed Alfred was murdered as he tried to discover who killed his brother, as do so many families seeking justice and awareness for the unsolved murders of their loved ones. All three of Alfred's children died very young of heart attacks. Were the murder of their father, uncle, and grandmother unbearable on their bodies, their minds, and spirits? Well, research tells us two things. Experiencing racism causes emotional and physical stress that leads to negative health outcomes, like increased rates of heart attacks and cardiovascular disease amongst Black people. In fact, Dr. King's daughter, Jolanda, died of a heart attack at 52. Research also tells us that murder impacts the family, the community, and society, and responding to homicide requires a significant investment, yet failure to respond is even more costly. The King family, like my family and all survivors of murdered victims, we experience physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial stress in the aftermath of a homicide. What can the King family's experience teach us about how we treat families who are impacted by murder, trauma, grief, and loss? I hope their strength and struggles help us cultivate compassion for all families and deepen our commitment to respond equitably and effectively when we hear of a homicide in our community. Is your mental spirit still down? Are you still walking with me? Do you still hear my voice? Now imagine the last story you read or heard about a person who was murdered. What do you remember that was said about them? What did they belong to? Who do they belong to? What was their name? What were their hopes? And what were their dreams? When a single mother or grandmothers ask for help before their children are killed, no one answers their calls. There are no consistent, sustainable, coordinated support services available for them before they experience the tragic death or incarceration of a child. When the same mothers, now survivors of homicide victims, ask, "Why did this happen to me?" Society answers that our families deserved it. You see, they were known to the police, or they were gang involved. While these facts may help solve a crime, they never, ever justify the tragic murder. What could we, must we, as a society, as a community, what could we have done before that child ended up dead or in jail for killing another human being? Together, we must confront the shame, the blame, the stigma, and stereotypes that families of murdered victims are facing on a daily basis. Dr. King tells us, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? What are we doing before these young men get to the point that they are known to police in a negative way? What are we doing to nurture the beloved community for the next generation? Violence in the United States is a product of systemic racism and inequity. Black people are 10 times more likely to be murdered than white. In the Black community in Boston, we have not really put the emphasis and the investment in communities and families to live in peace. Our families are really not valued the same way as white families. Even years after Martin Luther King Jr.'s murder, certain places in Boston, our beloved Boston, like Dorchester, Roxbury, and Mattapan, are still considered places where bad things happen, and white people are still scared to go, even as Black people are being pushed out of these same neighborhoods. We're aware that the newspaper will print the Mother's Day Walk for Peace on the cover, and then weeks later will write, "Why isn't the community doing anything when these murders happen? Where are these families, and why aren't they engaged?" On this Shabbat of Justice, I'm grateful to be here in unity. I know you are willing to walk with me on this healing journey, to nurturing the beloved community for the next generation. I would like for us to consider that our desire to live in peace must be matched by our commitment to end institutional racism. Together, I believe we can transform the way society responds to homicide while teaching the value of peace, to create an environment where families can live in peace and all of God's people are valued. Somehow, there is always money for gun buyback programs. This is very important. There is always money to work with the shooters. This is very important. Yet, as a survivor-led organization like the Peace Institute, many of us struggle to raise the funds for what we know works within our own community and what we know will lead to healing, reconciliation, and accountability. I didn't make this up. The Center for Disease Control says that in order to stop cycles of violence, we must invest in social ecological model that emphasizes primary peace prevention is as important as dealing with public safety, public health, and criminal justice. While all of the investment we make in violence for entertainment, as well as in real life, it should be no surprise that we see so much violence and injustice in our society. With all of the investment in violence, it's our karma that we live in such a violent society. We need to invest in peace and invest in justice. If and when we invest more time, resources, and action into peace and justice, we will ultimately begin to see those returns on the investment. As people of faith, I pray you can relate when I say I seek God's justice, not man's justice. I am showing God's love and not man's love. I am walking by faith and not by sight, and the hope for our beloved community that Dr. King envisioned. The courage to wake up every morning and try again, and to remember that the road to forgiveness is a long one. 29 years later, I am saddened, I am scared, and I am angered by man's justice. For the past 28 years, my team has been serving families of murdered victims, and I've witnessed year after year our city and country's investment in more police, swifter prosecution, and longer prison sentences. That's not the answer. As a mother of a murdered child, I can say that police, prosecutors, and prisons did not stop my son from being murdered, nor could they bring my son back to life. Yet homicides continue to happen. And I have a vision, like many of God's people, that we can shift and will shift our resources and invest in peace, prevention that leads to possibility in order to nurture the beloved community for the next generation. Our students need social emotional learning, not more police and metal detectors in our schools. Our family needs equitable access to quality physical and mental health treatment. Our community needs healing, housing, and opportunities that are sustainable, a helping hand, not a handout. Peace is not simply the absence of violence, but the presence of justice, where we have access to all that we need to do well. I invite us to uplift the families impacted by murder who are living the legacy of the King family. I invite us to honor the mothers who come to the Peace Institute and ask their sons' friends to practice nonviolence and not to seek revenge. Let us recognize the families who make plans to support their loved ones returning home from prison to prevent more harm from happening. Let us celebrate the survivors who transform their pain and anger into power and action, who are honoring and remembering their loved ones' memories by starting scholarship funds, providing services to fellow survivors, or leading advocacy work. Now, if Dr. King was alive, I wonder what he would be thinking about our fast-paced, highly technological world. Would he think that the beloved community is a relevant concept today? What would he think about mass shootings, bombing, terrorist attack, violence in our cities and rural communities, rampant drug abuse, the achievement gap, youth violence, gang violence, climate change, the continued growing income inequality, and the fact that poverty in the United States has only increased since his time? I have 4 concrete commitments to ask of you today. 1, most importantly, I ask for each of us to continue to commit to the inner work to heal ourselves and build our skills and voices to challenge racism. We invite you to join us at the Peace Institute for Piecing It Together, a course for our white partners who want to move past fixing and saving and doing the hard work necessary to address racism and violence in your own communities. Second, I ask that you continue to follow the leadership of all survivors, especially those survivors of color. Listen when we need you to step up and support us. If we follow the lead of Black and brown survivors, believe me, they are promising solutions in public health, mental health, community-based, spiritual solution to violence. Third, when you hear about a murder victim in the city, open your heart and think not just about their death and what the media reports, but about their life. What did they need to live in peace that they didn't get? Think compassionately about their family and our shared responsibility to ensure that they have the resources and support they need to heal, regardless of the circumstances surrounding their death. Fourth, of course, an invitation to once again come out full force to the 27th Annual Mother's Day Walk for Peace. Our theme is cultivating cycles of peace. In our society, we're constantly looped into cycles of violence that overshadows the transformative powers of peace. Like a blooming flowers, cycles of peace flourish when carefully cultivated. We have the agency to cultivate these cycles by empowering survivors, supporting returning citizens and their families, and investing in Generation Peace. You have been engaged with the Peace Institute for many years, and I thank you. Today, in 2023, is yet another opportunity to celebrate our connection, to deepen it. Why am I here, you ask? Oh, my goodness, she's talking about death and murder. Before Lewis was murdered, he said that he believed that all young people had the potential to be peacemakers, regardless of which side of the streets they come from. Now it is my grandchildren's, Alexander, Adrielle, and Amani's generation, and the babies that are here who we are looking to continue working for peace and justice. It is up to us, the adults, to continue to love and nurture the next generation of leaders, to teach them their history, be honest with them about the present, and model for them that it is possible to treat each other with dignity and compassion, regardless of our color, our class, and the community that we come from. Hope is here. Since Martin's murder, there have been many triumphs and trials, Black and brown organizers, many of them survivors, including people killed by police. They are pushing this country to address centuries of racism and violence. You see, I'm here today, yet I did not choose to do this work. I was thrown into it when Lewis was murdered. Just like the King family and the many survivors before me who have paved the way. 29 years later, after Lewis is murdered, I am tired of the pain and the death. I am angry and I'm sad. Yet, I am filled with hope, a sense of joy, a sense of power, and a sense of inner peace. My faith is what has guided me, and my faith is what gives me the strength to continue to serve as one of God's children. I am here because God has called me to be here. I am here to continue the work for peace and justice my son and many other mothers of murdered children did before me. I will always remember. I always celebrate. The music just filled my spirit, and I will continue to honor, and I choose to live. I am grateful again to each of you for being here. A day of celebration, a day of renewal, a day of commitment and rededication. This commitment to nurturing the beloved community for the next generation requires power, and it is long-term investment that must be rooted in love, unity, faith, hope, courage, justice, and forgiveness. These 7 principles of peace are neutral enough. They're the foundation of the work of the Peace Institute, and that people of goodwill, good heart, praying and marching feet from all religious and belief can embrace, invest, sustain, and practice. So before you leave here today, I invite you to consider the 4 opportunities I've offered and commit to ways you can personally and as a congregation continue to honor Dr. King's legacy by making an active and meaningful commitment to peace. Peace in the beginning, peace in the middle, peace in the end. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. I want to close with these words from Dr. King. He says, power, properly understood, is nothing but the ability to achieve purpose. It is the strength required to bring about social, political, and economic change. What is needed is the realization that power without love is reckless and abusive. And love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. Whew. Let us not be weary in serving. Let us move forward, keeping the powerful call to action always in our hearts, and with the courage and commitment to achieve Dr. King's vision of the beloved community. If not us, then who? May the peace of God guide your heart, your mind, and your soul for the sake of the next generation. And may the King in each of us lights continue to shine. Amen.
Amen. Chaplain Chéry, will you say the 4 demands of us again, just so we remember them?
I can send this to you also.
You can send it to me, but I want to hear it again.
Yes.
Tell us the 4 things you're asking of us.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you for that, because I really struggle with telling people what to do.
Oh, no, we love it. It's good. It's good. That's what we want. We want to be told what to do.
So, 4 concrete. Most importantly, I ask each of us to commit to inner work to heal ourselves. We're hurting from something. Give ourselves permission to heal and build our skills and voices to challenge racism. We invite you to join us for a project that we have that's called Piecing It Together. It's a course for our white partners that really teaches us to do the hard work. We always want to help others out there. Let's begin to help within and within our community. Second, I ask you to continue to follow the leadership of all survivors, especially survivors of color. Listen to when we need you to step up and support us. Because if we follow the lead of Black survivors, they are promising solutions in public health, mental health, community-based, and spiritual solutions to violence that leads to peace. Third, when you hear about a murdered victim in the city, open your heart and think not just about their death, but about their life. What did they need to live in peace, and what they didn't get. Think compassionately about their family and our shared responsibility to ensure they have the resources and support they need to heal, regardless of the circumstances. Fourth, of course, the invitation to come and walk with us. And for us as we cultivate cycles of peace.
Thank you.
Amen.
Amen, amen. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Inspiring. Thank you so much. Well, I'll say yes to number 4. We know we're going to be there. What the congregation might not know is that, and for many years now, I think it started with Rabbi Shachar, our Hebrew school on Mother's Day always goes, so we as well as many folks here, we got some longtime walkers here, so we will be there. So we'll work backwards from number 4. We'll start with number 4, and we'll get to the rest. Thank you so much. I'm thinking about what we read today, and this moment when you talked about how long you've been doing this work that you didn't choose. Just like Moses didn't choose it either, he's like, I'm just out herding my sheep, But sometimes the world, the universe, God chooses us when maybe it's not what we chose. But when he has that moment that we read today, when he says, who am I to do this? Like, I don't know why you're asking this of me. And the answer is in Hebrew, Ehyeh imach, which literally translates to I am with you. But then we learn that Ehyeh is God's name, and it's God's name of possibility. So I read it as, the power of possibility is with you. That's why you can do this, and I think your invitation to all of us, wherever we are, and however we're doing it, and that nurturing. We had our little ones this morning, so having our little ones here and saying, yeah, like how do they become leaders for peace, and the work we're doing in our school, and we have taken on as a congregation an anti-racism assessment, and really trying to do that deep work as a multiracial community. So I think. Thank you. Thank you for your challenge and for your blessing. And and if folks haven't gone on the walk before, you can participate. I think you can participate virtually these days if the actual walking is a challenge. And the walk itself is always fun. I even wear purple pants because that's the color. The walk color is purple. So awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And maybe you'll stay a little bit for lunch if people want to come say hi after. Is that good? Awesome. Great.